everyone, my name is Sam. Thanks for checking out this video. If you get to the end and liked it, then subscribe, bell notification, and give the video a thumbs up. January TBR. I don't know why my TBR videos are the most popular on my channel, but they are. So I normally try and go like full blown in January on TBR, but because of just what I have to do for work, basically the entire month of January I have to work a little bit extra every day almost of the week just because of what I am doing. So I'll have overtime, but sometimes it's in the morning, sometimes it's in the evening, so I may not, I just won't have the same amount of reading time as I normally do. And I don't know what it's going to look like with COVID. So I am being a little bit less ambitious than normal, and then if I get through them then I have books to throw in later, then great. But yeah, this is my January TBR. And I'm going to try and keep myself a little bit more organized this year so I don't forget my challenges for myself for the year. So I kind of put it on, I always use an Excel spreadsheet, but I also in there classify now like the challenges I'm supposed to be completing for myself each month and then kind of what books fall under there, so I'll be saying those as well. So first off, we are going to be going with The Bright and Breaking Seed by Chloe Neal. This is a book that I am reading that has been published in the last 60 days. I think it was November 17th, so I'll be reading this in the first half of January. I am very excited. I just know we have a female captain going strong. She's got a little ship, and I think she's one of the few women and under the Queen's Crown something fleet or whatever, and she runs into someone named Ryan, which I now remember because I have a friend named Ryan and it's spelt the same way. And I'm so curious about this. I know so many people that were excited for it to get released, and I don't think any of us have read it yet, so I haven't heard any reviews really on it, but I'm so excited for this one. So excited, and it's the first book in a series. What is going to be taking up the majority of my time is the Spellslinger series by Sebastian de Castell. I have read the first four. I think it's the first four, because they came out like 2 a year, and I think I just haven't gotten to Queenslayer and Crownbreaker. Majority of the reason I feel like I remember because I'm like, oh, make sure you've read all his stuff because he's normally at the conference I tend to go to in January. So make sure you have all his stuff read, and like if you want to get anything signed, but our conference isn't happening this January, obviously. And then I also saw the cover reveal for The Way of the Argosy, which is like a novella in this same world, the cover reveal, and I pre-ordered that, and I think it comes out in April, so I want to have everything done by then. And this also falls under my challenge to try and finish one series a month. I won't be rereading every book in every series when I do this, but it's just been a while and I really love this series, so I will be reading in order Spellslinger, Shadow Black, Charmcaster, and these are the UK covers, by the way. The US ones are crappy. Soulbinder, Queenslayer, and Crownbreaker, which is the last in that series. Very sad. And I'm just happy I have them all in my possession, and I'm very excited to finish this series for sure. How do I explain that? There's a world where, like, I don't know, it's just a fantasy and there's a talking squirrel cat thing. It's very good. In traditional Sebastian de Castell fashion, lots of banter and dialogue, and a really strong main cast. And there's like cards and stuff like that. And the main character isn't the most talented or skilled individual, and they're trying to be the hero. I also plan on picking up Just One Damn Thing After Another by Jodi Taylor. This is the original series, I think. I've seen these audiobooks on sale on Audible for during like sales and daily deals. And I think I bought one of the spin-off series, I want to say. I think. No, I own this one, right? I don't know. I own one of the audiobooks from one of this parts of the series. So I'm finally gonna read it. And I really honestly know nothing about this. Just like, I've heard people mention it to me before. I've seen this cover floating around every time I'm on bookish sites. So I finally got it from the library, and I just know there's time traveling. That's kind of it. I am also planning on picking up Fable by Adrienne Young. This is going to be one of the group reads in the TBR and Beyond group. And I think we have No One Is Watching You and what's the other one? Kingdom of the Wicked, I want to say? I think so. So if you're interested in any of these, you can join the TBR and Beyond group and group reads. I am very curious about this. This got picked as Reese's YA book club pick, I think, for October or November. And that's kind of what made me finally push me to go buy it. I love that book 1 and book 2 will have matching covers, and I've just heard nothing but absolute love and praise for this, that it sounds a little bit like Daughter of the Pirate King in premise, and without like that kind of comedy. So I'm very curious about this, that everyone just seems to be absolutely raving about it. I am going to be reading Secondhand Curses, and that's going to be tackling the challenge to read a book from my Audible back catalog once a month. And Secondhand Curses is one that I have put on my TBR like probably 3 or 4 times just in 2020. And like just like my list got too long, so then I kept bumping it to the next month and being like, well, it's in no rush, like it's just, you know, whatever. I had one friend I think read it and said she enjoyed it and thought it was quite funny. And that was like literally the only reviews I've heard on it, but it has some decent reviews. I think it was, I'm trying to remember how long, it was so long ago when I bought this book now. I think it has like was pitched a little bit like Robin Hood, like a group of bandits sort of situation. So I'm very curious about this one, definitely. And it's one that I haven't forgot about that it was on my back catalog. I've kept putting it on TBRs and kept being like, there's just no hurry. So I am excited to read it. It wasn't that one that like I bought and now I'm just avoiding or totally forgot about. I am also going to be reading K-Pop Confidential by Stephen Lee. I am a big consumer of K-pop. So when something came out with K-Pop Confidential as the name, I was intrigued, and then I saw the cover and I was like, that's Myeonbul. I can't ever say her name. That's Myeonbul from Mamamoo. That's her in Hip. I'm too curious to not watch it. I'm too curious to not read it. Like, what? Also, how did they not get sued by Mamamoo's label for being like, that's clearly her likeness. Like, I honestly don't even remember what the plot is. I saw the cover and it's Myeonbul and I was like, so, and I have it on my Christmas list, so I may get a physical copy for the holidays, I'm hoping. But if not, I've got the audiobook on hold through my library and I will definitely be reading it. I'm also going to pick up The Body Under the Piano. It's a middle grade mystery. I had never heard of it before, and then it just popped up on the landing page when I go to my library's Cloud Library website, and I was like, ooh, that sounds like an interesting premise, and the audiobook was available to place on hold, so I placed a hold. I, again, was like, I just remember looking at it being like, there's a mystery element to it, and that it sounded a little bit like Enola Holmes, and so then I was like, oh, I should probably put this on my TBR, because I feel like I just keep forgetting to read Enola Holmes since I've become aware of it being a thing, which as a mass consumer again of Sherlock Holmes stuff, I should probably read. So I feel like if I put this on my list, I think the holds list for Enola Holmes at my library right now is just outrageous because of the movie. So I'll wait for that to die down a little bit and just kind of keep putting middle grade mysteries in my TBR as I see fit, to remind myself about Enola Holmes. I am also going to be picking up The Empress of Salt and Fortune, which is a novella. I'm like 100% sure I bought that. I own it. And I think I just moved it somewhere in my apartment in the last couple like weeks or months. So I definitely have the physical copy somewhere. I just can't find it right now. But it is my challenge for once a month to read a novella and or a graphic novel. And that is going to be this month's. And I had another recent reminder because the sequel for it just came out, which has another just beautiful cover. And that's the problem. It's not even a big book. It's like this big. It's somewhere shoved between just something in my apartment. And like, I'm gonna have to like mass clean and find it somewhere before I can read it. But it is on my TBR. One of my challenges each month is to read one arc, so I am picking up We Are Not Free by Tracy Chee. I got this, I think it was last January at the conference that I went to, and it was one of my most anticipated books for this year, and I just never got around to it. I think emotionally too, because it talks about some not easy to process things that with everything that has happened in 2020, I think my brain just was like, we're gonna have to put this for another time to deal with everything going on in the world. So I want to get on it though, and I think it was named as one of the best books of the year by a couple different lists in the past couple weeks. It is set in, I believe it's modern day San Francisco area, in the Bay Area, but it's talking about the multi-generational impact of the Japanese internment camps, and I feel like people just forget about that stuff, that like, oh, well, we did that stuff, but like, it was in like a long time ago. We do this in Canada a ton with Indigenous people. We're like, oh, the residential schools have been closed for forever. The last one closed in the 1990s. I was already born. That's messed up. But it's also like, you don't just stop everything that place. People that help perpetuate a bunch of racism. You can see especially in the United States, the remnants of all the racism towards black people still very prevalent, but they're like, oh, well, like, y'all are allowed to vote now, so it's like, we're all good, right? Like, no, that stuff has long-term impacts. It's one of the many reasons at play with why we have such issues in Canada with the Indigenous people. A lot of them don't have access to clean water. We pushed them into these remote communities that don't have access to a bunch of basic services, and then don't make them feel welcome when they come into town, so they don't want to move off the community reserve, but then we don't give them access to basic things out there like drinking water, education, grocery stores, jobs, all of these issues. And then when they go through all this trauma of residential schools in the 60s scoop, and then they turn into substance abuse, which so many people do no matter what your race, we attach like a stereotype to them, which is just infuriating. And then some dumbass is like, Native people don't pay taxes. So like, I'm glad that this is another thing that we're tackling, because I feel like the Japanese internment camps, we just pretend that straight up didn't happen in Canada. We did shit. We're just like, no, we didn't really. We don't talk about that. We didn't do that, really. No, we definitely did. So I'm very curious about this. I don't know that I've read a ton of books set in the San Francisco Bay Area as well. And I got really excited too when I saw that Stacey Lee has blurbed it, and I have read a couple things by Stacey Lee in it, I think, and I've definitely really enjoyed it. And I'm just really excited to finally read this. Tracy Chee is the author of, oh, what's the series called? They changed the name a couple times. But it's the Reader series, and her writing is just amazing. Like, mind-bogglingly good. And I kind of expect the same thing of this, that the writing will just be amazing. I am also going to be picking up Fire and Heist as the book this month that I'm reading I've had for over a year. Definitely had this for over a year. I honestly didn't really ever hear of Sarah Beth Durst until like, I don't know, 2 years ago, and she has so many books out, like traditional publishing. So I was like, oh, I've just like never seen, in a variety of age groups. I'm like, how have I never heard of her? And I loved the Queens of Renthia series. So, and the Race to the Sands, I think. I read that this year as well. I really enjoyed that. And she has a book coming out in early 2021. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but it's one on I want to read it. So I've enjoyed all of her writing, and she seems to have general books that I'm excited about. This has like a pretty low rating online, but I feel like it is a standalone fantasy, which I know can be and cannot be for some people. And I don't think you can go to a standalone fantasy knowing it's this long, expecting it to be like something as detailed or as world building as some other large fantasy. And I remember when this first, like, the cover got revealed, I was like, where are dragons? That's an interesting premise. I don't think I've really ever read. Like, it must exist before, but like, I definitely don't have any recollection of reading a book with that in it. So I'm excited for this one, for that, but also I just seem to really enjoy her stuff. I am also going to be picking up Sisters of Sword and Song. Wow, I'm reading a lot of standalone-ish things. I wonder if I'll notice that of myself if I just by default start picking up more standalones, since I'm making myself finish a series each month. Interesting. By Rebecca Ross. This is, actually, I don't think I've really heard anything about this. People were pretty excited when it was coming out, and I don't know that I've heard anything since it came out, but there's two sisters. One returns from war, like, in a panic or something like that, to I think it's where they, like, their family house is or something like that, and the sister who was staying at the family house, like, never went away to war, ends up, like, volunteering to help when her sister who ran back from war gets like accused of a crime, but she's not told what the actual details are, but she thinks the commander of her sister or something like that is involved in it, so she volunteers to like help. I'm trying to remember if it's so the punishment that the girl gets from coming back to war that's been accused of a crime: 5 years working in the quarry, 5 years imprisoned, and 5 years serving the house she has wronged. Suspicious of the commander and of her sister's silence on her crime, Ava volunteers to serve at the house of that her sister's being stayed at. If there's a way to absolve her sister, she will find it, and as Halcyon, her sister, begins to serve her sentence, she quickly learns that there's a fate worse than death. I'm curious. Wait, is this a standalone now? I'm double guessing myself. I feel like this is. I'm 99% sure, because she wrote the Queen's Game? The Queen's Rising duology. And I feel like when this got announced, there was like, she got a deal for this standalone, and then there's another standalone that's supposed to come out in the next little bit. I'm fairly certain. But I'm curious about this. I haven't really heard anything about it for the most part. I think my one friend Muriel, read it and really, really enjoyed it. And I think that's what made me finally like go buy it. But that's been kind of it since it came out. So I'm very curious. And honestly, I feel like the last time Muriel spoke to me that like positively about a book, she was telling me about Thorn, and I just adore that book to the ends of the earth. So I'm very optimistic about that one. Don't tell Muriel though, she's French and it'll go to her head. Then I'm going to be reading Legendborn. I've been wanting to read this like for forever. I anger bought it basically the other month when Rolling was at it again, but I had this on it was on my cart anyways. I was trying to be a financially responsible adult at the time, and I was like, well, you wait until the end of the month when all of your like bills and everything are out. And I halfway through the month I was like, fuck Rolling, and just bought books. So this is Tracy Deonn's debut. This is another one that I think got put on a bunch of like best books of the year lists from different institutions. And I've heard nothing but just utter praise for this book. I think it's a duology. I'm trying to remember if it's a trilogy. I'm 99% sure it's a duology, not a trilogy. The gist of the summary was the main character, she's 16 and her mother dies. I think it's in a car crash. And so she ends up enlisting in this, I think it's a private school where she gets to like live like a boarding school or whatever, like lives at the school. And so she goes there, and I think it's like the first day, like she like runs into like the middle of a magic attack or something like that. And then she kind of gets thrust into that world. Bree witnesses a magical attack on her very first night on campus. What an introduction to the school. A flying demon feeding on human energies. That'll do it. A secret society of so-called Legendborn students who hunt the creatures down, and she's probably gonna join them. So I'm curious about this. It's another one that just like everyone seems to be adoring this so much. I feel like this one seems to have a lot of the same buzz that Children of Blood and Bone had in the book community right before it came out. So I'm curious. Hopefully this keeps like being as popular. And then something I've been really wanting to do is catch up on all the Goldsboro special editions that I got while I was subscribed to their sci-fi fantasy thing. This month, am going to be reading A Declaration on the Rights of the Magicians by H.G. Perry. I know some people have said that this is a bit of a dense read. I was expecting that from the size, the thickness. It's a shorter and a fatter book. I just automatically assume that. I know there's supposed to be, the second book comes out in 2021. They have already released the cover. It's online. A Sweeping Tale of Revolution and Wonder in a World Not Quite Like Our Own. It's basically a, messing with the French Revolution, and incorporating magic, which, can you imagine how chaotic France would have been? If you involved magic, like, they already built a guillotine, and then there was the terror, like, can you imagine all of that happening, and then throwing in magic? Can you imagine what Les Mis would have been? Wow. In the Age of the Enlightenment, a new and magical political movement from the hypnotist Robespierre calling for revolution in France, to the weather mage Toussaint Louverture leading the slaves of Saint Dominique to freedom, to the bold Prime Minister William Pitt legislating the use of magic in Britain. But amid the upheaval, there is an unknown force inciting violent conflict, and it will require the combined efforts of the revolutionaries, magicians, and abolitionists to unmask the hidden enemy before the whole world Before the Whole World Falls into Darkness and Chaos. Everyone that I know, for the most part, that has read this has really enjoyed it. I just had a few people who were like, just be aware, like, it's a little bit dense, like, there's a lot being set up at the beginning. And I was like, girl, I like adult fantasies for their political intrigue. And they're like, oh, okay, you're good then. And the last book, I think, that I have on my docket for this month is The Bone Shard Daughter by Andrea Stewart. This got put on quite a few, I think, best books of the year, best debuts of the year, all those sorts of lists. And I got the beautiful Goldsboro edition there with the sprayed edges there. I kept hearing people say that this is a little bit like the Poppy War. It reminded, well, not like identical plot-wise, but like it reminded them of the Poppy War. So The Bone Shard Daughter is the unmissable fantasy debut and captivating tale of magic revolution and mystery where a young woman's sense of identity will make or break an empire. I think essentially the main character is like the daughter of one of the emperors in this geographic place, and there's like an outbreak or something like that. I guess it's kind of timely to come out, I don't know. There's an outbreak and she thinks that she has the magic ability, or she wants to learn the magic ability or something like that, using bone to come up with some sort of a cure and or to save their position as kind of rulers of this community. So and I already had it on my TBR for this month, and then it was on sale, the audiobook on Libro, for like $6 or something like that the other day, and so I snatched that up. So anyways, those are the books that I plan on reading in the month of January. I'm very optimistic that I'm going to like really, January is going to be a month of really good books. So yeah, I will link all of these books. Well, I'll put all these books in a Goodreads shelf and link that Goodreads shelf in the description box down below. Stay safe, wear a mask where you need to, Black Lives Matter, and hopefully the world doesn't kind of implode this month with whatever the hell's gonna happen in the United States. So, have a wonderful day, everyone.